In 1968, the most famous band in the world arrived in a quiet forest retreat in Rishikesh, searching for something fame could not offer them. Not applause, not wealth, not celebrity status. They came looking for silence, meditation, and inner peace under the guidance of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. What followed would leave a lasting mark not only on the Beatles but also on the global identity of Rishikesh itself. This is the story of Chaurasi Kutiya, an ashram born in the forests of Uttarakhand, abandoned for years, rediscovered by a new generation, and immortalized forever by four musicians from Liverpool. The story of Chaurasi Kutiya began before the Beatles ever set foot in Rishikesh. In 1961, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi established this ashram after acquiring forest land on a 20-year lease from the Forest Department. Tucked away in the forests on the banks of the Ganga, it was conceived as a retreat for meditation, reflection, and spiritual learning. At the time, Rishikesh was still a small spiritual town known to seekers, but far from the global destination it would later become. Then in 1968 came the moment that changed everything.
Standing at the entrance of Chaurasi Kutiya, it is difficult to imagine the world's most famous musicians once walked through these gates. But in 1968, this remote ashram became the center of global attention, drawing music legends, celebrities, and spiritual seekers to the bank of the Ganga.
By 1968, Beatlemania had already conquered the world, but behind the fame and frenzy, the band was restless. George Harrison, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and John Lennon had developed a deep interest in Indian spirituality and music, and they were searching for something deeper. And together the Beatles arrived in Rishikesh to learn transcendental meditation under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. What they found here was not just spiritual retreat but creative renewal. During their stay at Chaurasi Kutiya, the Beatles composed many songs, several of which later featured in their iconic White Album. This ashram, with its silence, forests, and meditation spaces, became a rare meeting point of music and spirituality.
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, a very popular name, who had coined the term transcendental meditation. He popularized meditation in the West. Earlier, most of the spiritual masters like Swami Yogananda Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda, they had taken Vedantic aspects to popularize meditation, dhyana. But Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he gave sort of secular definition to meditation. He did not connect it with any religion, not with Hinduism, not with Vedanta, not with Indian scriptures. He just popularized it in a way as a technique for physical, mental balance, well being. In 1963 they started, and 1968 Beatles group, they came to Rishikesh for practicing living this transcendental TM, it is commonly called. And the place was developed like such. It had a huge kitchen, then place to dine out, and 84 caves, stony dome shaped caves were made where people could focus their mind, practice meditation. That was the most creative period also of the Beatles group. So it has been now more than 5 decades when they came and they wrote famous songs of White Album, which are popular so much. Still, that ashram, that Chaurasi Kutiya, got its name as Beatles Ashram, and still it continues to attract foreigners. Even the followers of Mahesh Yogi and the Beatles band group, they kept on coming all these years to leave their impression on Chaurasi Kutiya by making some notes, giving some messages, making graffiti on the walls. But yes, now this place needs much more revival if the government can revive it in a better way, because it needs, the old things need to be restored properly.
And perhaps that is why Chaurasi Kutiya is not merely remembered as a place they visited, it is remembered as a place that shaped them. These pathways have witnessed one of the most remarkable cultural encounters of the 20th century. The domes, now withered by time, once held hours of meditation and silence. The cottages tucked into the forest offered the band a life far removed from the chaos of stardom, and the walls, now covered in Beatles inspired graffiti, carry the memory of a story that continues to draw visitors from around the world.
These simple pathways and meditation spaces witness an extraordinary experiment. Four global icons stepped away from and entered a world of reflection, contemplation, and self discovery.
For years, much of the history of the Beatles' stay in Rishikesh survived through scattered memories, photographs, and personal accounts. One of the people who worked to preserve and document that history was Dehradun based journalist Raju Gosai. He began researching the Beatles' connection with Chaurasi Kutiya in 2003 and collected rare archival material related to their stay, helping keep alive the story of how this forest ashram became one of the most recognized spiritual landmarks in modern India.
I started my research on Beatles in Rishikesh uh, way back in 2003. So, in these 23 years, what I've done is that I have collected all the archival material related to the Beatles stay in Rishikesh. So, the story of the ashram, Chaurasi Kutiya, which is now popularly known as Beatles Ashram, started in 1961 when Maharishi Mahesh Yogi took this land from Uttar Pradesh Forest Department in 1961, and that lease was for 20 years. That lease expired in 1981, and after that, the ashram started the process of getting the lease renewed. But it never got completed, and in 1991, what happened that the Supreme Court of India passed a guideline that if anybody is staying inside the forest area without any valid lease, they should be removed. So this ashram came under the control of the forest department in 1999.
According to Gosai, Rishikesh was still a relatively small place in 1968, but the arrival of the Beatles changed the way the world looked at it, opening a new chapter in its identity as a destination for international travelers, seekers, and music lovers. In 2017, a delegation from the Beatles Story in Liverpool, the world's largest museum dedicated to the Beatles, visited Chaurasi Kutiya to mark 50 years of the band's stay in Rishikesh. It was another sign that the legacy of 1968 had traveled far beyond India.
In 2017, what happened that the biggest museum of the Beatles is located in Liverpool. It is known as the Beatles Story. A team of the Beatles Story came to Rishikesh. They were planning something for 2018 to mark the 50 years of Beatles arrival in Rishikesh. So they were here to just to view the ashram and all. And I had this honor to conduct their tour. And we developed a good friendship with the Beatles Story people. And few years back, they decided to make me their Indian brand ambassador.
But the story of Chaurasi Kutiya is not only one of the fame, it is also a story of disappearance and rediscovery. Following a Supreme Court order concerning forest land, the Forest Department took over the ashram in 1900 and 1999. For years after that, this remarkable site remained deserted, its wall fading, its pathways overgrown, its silence deepening in abandonment. Then in 2015, the Forest Department decided to reopen it to the public, and almost immediately visitors returned. They came for the Beatles, for Maharishi, for meditation, and for the mystique of a place where music and spirituality had once converged.
After 1999, the forest department took no interest in the ashram, and it remained completely deserted till 2015. In 2015, the forest department decided to reopen the ashram, and it received a warm welcome from the tourists and all. They were very keen on getting inside the ashram. They wanted to visit the ashram. After 1968, Rishikesh town was pretty small town, and it was used as a camping ground for the pilgrims. But after 1968, it evolved as a new destination for international foreign tourists. So in 2025, around 1,07,000 Indian tourists and 10,000 foreign tourists visited Chaurasi Kutiya. That is a big number because if you compare it with other tourist destinations, it is a big, you can say that it received an overwhelming response.
Recognizing the site's growing popularity, the Uttarakhand government has begun restoration work with an outlay of more than 100 crore rupees, over 12 million US dollars. This is not simply an effort to restore buildings, it is an effort to preserve a story. Today, Chaurasi Kutiya is one of the most compelling heritage attractions in Uttarakhand. In 2025 alone, around 107,000 Indian visitors and 10,000 foreign tourists came to the Beatles Ashram, a striking reminder of the enduring pull of this place. Historic photographs of the band displayed inside the ashram, the cottages where they stayed, the graffiti on its walls, and the meditation kutiyas themselves continue to fascinate visitors from across the world. Yet, the larger story is not only about nostalgia, it is about what the Beatles helped amplify. Rishikesh already had a deep spiritual tradition. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi had already created a meditative sanctuary here. But when the Beatles came, the world began to pay attention in an entirely new way.
Uttarakhand government is spending a big amount. It is estimated that rupees 100 crore rupees in the restoration of the ashram. The restoration work uh, started last year only, and they were forced to do that because the tourists were interested in getting inside the ashram. They wanted to see what this ashram is like about. So this is something about the ashram and what all development are taking place.
Rishikesh already had a deep spiritual tradition. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi had already created a meditative sanctuary here. But when the Beatles came, the world began to pay attention in an entirely new way.
When the Beatles came to Rishikesh, when they came to Maharishi Ji, when they started meditating, and then their White Album was produced, and their popularity got even more, their success was even more. But more importantly than that, their lives were deeper and richer. It showed the world that spirituality and meditation and yoga, these were not just for really old people, they were not just for monks living in caves, but actually they were for everybody. And even for people as rich, as successful, as young, as popular as the Beatles, that these things were critical. And I think it really shifted how we think about spirituality, is even when you have everything, there's an emptiness inside. जब तक अध्यात्म अपने जीवन में नहीं आता है, भीतर में खालीपन तो होगी होगी.
Long before yoga became a global industry, long before wellness tourism, and long before soft power became a fashionable phrase, Rishikesh had already found an unexpected set of ambassadors. The Beatles did not create Rishikesh's spirituality. That legacy was already centuries old, but they amplified it dramatically, globally, and permanently. Their stay at Chaurasi Kutiya connected Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's teachings with the imagination of the Western world. Their songs carried echoes of this journey, and their presence helped project Rishikesh not just as a town of temples and ashrams, but as a global destination for yoga, meditation, healing, and inner discovery. This was India's soft power before the term had even entered the modern vocabulary.
यहाँ पर 84 कुटिया का जो रिनोवेशन का काम है वो चल रहा है. हम शर्मा कंस्ट्रक्शन की तरफ से, मैं साइट इंजीनियर हूँ यहाँ पे. तो यहाँ पे आनंद और सिद्धि भवन जो मेन बिल्डिंग है उसमें अभी रिनोवेशन का काम चल रहा है, जो 3rd और 4th फ्लोर है. और जो आप सामने देख रहे हैं ये अपना बिटल्स बंगलो है. यहाँ पे बिटल्स आके रहे थे और उन्होंने अपने सॉन्ग होंग राइट जो भी अपना गाना गाया था. तो फॉरेनर ज़्यादातर आता है यहाँ पे, इसी के लिए आता है, इस बिल्डिंग को ही देखने के लिए आता है. तो अभी तो यहाँ पे फिलहाल 84 कुटिया में काम रिनोवेशन का चल रहा है. 2 साल का ये अपना रिनोवेशन का वर्क है यहाँ पे. 84 कुटिया एक तरीके से यहाँ मेडिटेशन और पीस, इसके लिए लोग आगे यहाँ पे यूज़ करते हैं इसको. अभी तो फिलहाल मेडिटेशन का यहाँ पर वर्क अभी बंद है. नहीं तो जो अपनी 84 कुटिया है इसमें एक बीच में हॉल टाइप में है और 42 राइट एंड लेफ्ट साइड में केव्स टाइप में बनी हुई है. इसमें पहले के टाइम पे जो अपने ऋषि मुनि है वो इंस्ट्रक्शन देते थे बीच हॉल से. तो जो 42 दोनों साइडों में है उसमें समान आवाज जाती थी, तो उसमें इंस्ट्रक्शन देते थे, वहीं से उनका योगा करवाते थे.
More than 50 years have passed since the Beatles left Rishikesh. The ashram has seen meditation and music, fame and abandonment, decay and revival. But the echo of 1968 still lingers here. In the graffiti on the walls, in the photographs preserved inside, in the cottages where the band stayed, in the meditation kutiyas where silence once inspired songs. What began as a spiritual retreat became a cultural landmark. What began as a journey for inner peace helped place Rishikesh on the world map.
More than half a century has passed since the Beatles came to Rishikesh seeking inner peace. Yet their presence still resonates through these forests, these domes, and these pathways. What began as a personal spiritual quest became a global cultural phenomenon, one that introduced millions to meditation, yoga, and India's timeless wisdom. For India Abroad TV, this is S. Raju at Chaurasi Kutiya, Rishikesh. India.